Hey, this is your boy Jay Steve from the Soul Fresh Podcast. And before we get started, make sure you go to YouTube, smash that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. Now that that's out the way, let's get it.
All right, welcome back to the Soul Fresh Podcast. I'm your host, BK.
And I'm your host, Jay Steve.
Jay Steve, what's going on?
Nothing much, brother. Another podcast, another episode, another guest coming in for the 2023. So we're starting off right with a big time person.
That is. We got a guest coming on. We'll get to him in a minute. And so as far as what's been going on with you, as far as our last conversation, we was talking about mental health and and anxiety or whatever. That was a good conversation.
Yes.
So hopefully the people that will draw more people to kind of express some of their insight on how they dealt with it. And
Keep the conversation going.
Yeah, we was being real transparent, so I think that allowed other people. I notice on the book, people are starting to be a little bit transparent, and see that's what we did that for. So we got a lot of great guests coming up soon. As you know, we love keeping the conversation on health and wellness. So throughout the year, we're going to have a bunch of exciting guests, nutritionists, more medical professionals. And today we've got a PharmD, Dr. Bryan Scott. So let's go ahead and give it up for Dr. Bryan Scott.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and start from the beginning. All right, so
take it back.
Go ahead and tell us where you went to school and your journey on becoming a pharmacist and how that came about.
So I went to undergrad and pharmacy school at Howard University in Washington, D.C. I was a chemistry major.
What they say, H-U?
You know. Was a chemistry major. Didn't know if I wanted to get a PhD or go and get my medical degree. My dad was like, well, why don't you switch over to pharmacy and then you can figure it out after that. He started talking to me about entrepreneurship, legacy, and I was really excited about joining the family business. So I decided not to get a PhD or go get a medical degree and just concentrate on my PharmD and growing our family business.
Yeah, okay.
Scott's Pharmacy, shout out.
Scott's Pharmacy. Yeah, so, all right, so I read a little bit about your background and whatnot. So let's go ahead and get into started and as far as what it is that you do. So what is a compound pharmacist?
Okay. So at Scott's Pharmacy, we're a full-service pharmacy, so we can do all your blood pressure, diabetes, and things like that. But we also do specialize in compounding. And how I like to tell people is when the standard medication isn't working, maybe it's too expensive, maybe it's not appropriate, we can work with you and your doctor to come up with something specifically for you. Right. A lot of pills have different colors in them. Some people may be allergic to the red dye that's in a capsule. We can do dye-free capsules.
Is that same dye? What is it? 90? Red dye?
Red dye 90.
Red dye,
something like, can't remember the exact one.
So that's the same thing?
Right, yeah. More and more people are very health conscious and vegan and things like that.
True.
Most of your capsules are made from gelatin, which is an animal byproduct. So we have some people that we get vegetable capsules and we make them like that. So for those people who are like, I don't want any animal products at all, it's where compounding helps out. So anytime the standard medication isn't working, isn't appropriate, we can help out.
So there's actual vegan medication basically for the people, the naturalists, and
right.
what they call themselves.
Right, so the vegan people they won't even eat honey. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, because it comes from bees. So they don't want to do any
I didn't
type
know that
of
one.
And so when they use this gelatin capsule, which is an animal byproduct, you wouldn't think people get to that level, but we have had some people that are like, no, I only want a vegetable cellulose capsule, and we do that for them.
What's the difference? Is there any difference between the vegetable capsule versus the gelatin?
No, it's just not made from any animal byproduct. So, like I said, it's not a lot of people who get down into the weeds like that, but there are some people, and that's when we come in. We also do a lot for babies. Sadly, it's some children who have grown people diseases, have heart failure, have, high blood pressure. They might not be able to swallow tablets. So we can take these, tablets and make them into suspensions for them so they can, take it by mouth in a liquid and things like that.
Right.
See, that's one of my problems.
Yeah.
I can't swallow pills.
Where are you located?
We're located in Macon, Georgia, 635 Pioneer Avenue. We ship all over the state when it comes to compounded medications, but we also do a lot with vitamins and minerals and high quality nutritional supplements, and those we can ship all over the country.
Yeah, so when you're talking about Macon, Georgia, and being a Black-owned business in that community, and competing with other places where people can get, medicine from, how do you move, or how do you strategize as far as getting people to support Black business in a community like that?
Well, a couple of different things. One, we try to make sure we got a better mousetrap. So like I said, a very few pharmacies specialize in compounding. Some do it, but we're actually board certified in it. It's only about 7 in the state that are board certified. We're the only one outside of Atlanta. The other thing that we do is try to offer other services. We have some real cool med packs that separates people's medications by date and time. So if you take more than like 5 medications a day, this really helps out, for people, a lot of people's parents who are elderly and things like that. So these are things that they can't get at CVS. We offer free delivery. That's something else that they can't get. But also just being engaged and being in the community. My father opened it in 1985, and, he would just go around talking to people like, hey, come support me. And it would be amazing how many school teachers started coming. So teachers who taught me in the 3rd grade still come to the pharmacy. Right. And so that's how you build it, just one person at a time.
Okay. So let's go ahead and get into a conversation that we talked about yesterday. So we were talking about mental health, but specifically, it's so many categories under the umbrella of mental health. But we were specifically talking about anxiety and whatnot. That's kind of been prevalent, especially when we're talking about COVID. And we're going to circle back around and talk about COVID a little bit. But when we're talking about medication, I noticed that you actually push a lot of holistic type medicines or alternatives instead of just going the traditional route. So when we're talking about anxiety, what are some things that you could offer as a pharmacist?
They got a lot of different things out there. One of my favorite things is called L-theanine. L-theanine is the amino acid that's found in green tea. So it really does promote calm and relaxation, but doesn't really make people drowsy. So if you're looking for maybe a natural Xanax, L-theanine would be a great place to start. CBD is also very good for anxiety. And so those would be my main. Oh, and there's also something called phosphatidylserine, and this kind of turns your brain off. Right. And so if you're a person that when you lay down at night, your mind is just racing, you're thinking about what you didn't get done today, what you got to do to get tomorrow. That phosphatidylserine really helps kind of just turn your mind off. So one of the things we kind of when we talk to people, we got a whole range of things that we can do, but we just try to get down into the weeds with that particular person.
So it balances that. When we had the other guest on, when we was breaking down the
melatonin and stuff.
The serotonin. What is it?
So the
what is
cortisol?
Yeah, that's it. Cortisol.
Right. Yeah. So cortisol, when cortisol is high, your mind is going to be racing.
Right.
And so if you can turn that down, you can really do a lot of things.
And so that's what that does. That combats that.
Because too much of that is what kind of brings on those attacks, right?
Right. That's one thing that could, if you have a high level. And then that messes up your melatonin. So high levels of cortisol causes your melatonin to go down. So now you're not sleeping again because, your mind is racing and you don't have enough melatonin.
Right. And that's why they offer those melatonin
gummies and stuff like that.
Yeah. I've tried one. It never really worked for me.
I don't really.
Once again, the trick is why you're not sleeping. Melatonin is more so for people who shift workers who constantly are kind of changing their sleeping habits. Some people who work nights or people who you might work 3 days on, 4 days off. Right. Those people are going to get the most benefit out of melatonin
because they want to balance themselves back.
Right, because their bodies are on different time clocks. But for the most people, I don't start with melatonin. I will start with CBD for sleep.
Gotcha. So CBD is that's your go-to basically when a person comes and asks, "Hey, Dr. Scott, what is probably the best thing for me to keep me calm and relaxed?"
Yeah, I would say, CBD, like I said, is going to help with pain, anxiety, sleep. So it's great for everything, basically.
Right. We was going to get into that.
Okay, yeah.
How did you get into the CBD scene? Because I noticed, been watching your videos, doing a little research on you, and I know that was one of the things that you were pushing. So let's go ahead and get into that category of CBD, because all I know is like Delta 8, Delta 7. I think Delta 9 is like what makes it illegal.
Right.
And can you, for the people that are listening, just break that down for us?
Right. So a lot of people don't realize that cannabis, when they think the word cannabis, they automatically think marijuana. But cannabis, if you will, is like an umbrella term, and cannabis has 2 plants. One is marijuana, and the other is hemp.
Right.
And so in the United States, around like 2014, they said you can grow hemp. And hemp is used to make CBD. So a lot of times when you hear the word medical marijuana, it's the CBD that's doing a lot of the work, even though THC does have some good health benefits.
Oh, yeah.
And so marijuana is very high in THC and doesn't have as much CBD, whereas hemp has very high CBD and less than 0.3% THC.
Right.
Because, so it's more for the body.
Right.
Would be.
And so if, like marijuana helps out with anxiety as well. It helps out with sleep, but it also gets you high.
Yeah.
So some people don't want to be high.
But also depending on which
true.
one you get, where they say that sativa and that indica.
Which strain you get.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so,
out.
it can cause some paranoia and things like that. So that's where the CBD comes in, because you can get a lot of the same medicinal benefits that you get with marijuana, but you don't get the THC.
So those hemp cigarettes, like they sell at the stores, I've seen where they cost like $13 a pack, which is crazy. So that's just basically a CBD cigarette.
Right, exactly.
Pretty much. Okay, I didn't understand, because when I saw it, I was like, hemp cigarettes, I was like, oh, okay. Now, and also, if my mind serves me correctly, wasn't hemp like the number one cash crop early 1900s, 1920s and everything like that today?
Yeah, I think they were making you make bricks with hemp.
Right, where they make hemp homes in Africa and Haiti and stuff like that.
Yeah, they do a lot of stuff with it. And then, for whatever reason, it's a lot of different theories on it, but the FDA and the DEA decide to make CBD and THC illegal, Schedule 1, and which means you can't even do research on it, and so you couldn't even find out the benefits of these products because you couldn't even do research.
Right.
But over the years, things have changed. States are doing different things. Georgia just passed a low THC oil law. We've had some issues with the legislator, so there's nobody who can produce it right now.
Right.
But the law is on the books for certain conditions, so pretty soon you're going to start to see THC oil here in Georgia.
And I believe that's what a lot of those parents that are dealing with kids who suffer from severe seizures are pushing for that THC oil because of the potency and I guess the effectiveness.
Right, and then they keep adding diseases to the list, so people can be eligible. Things like autoimmune disorders, rheumatoid arthritis, chronic pain, just a lot of different diseases, because we know that THC does have a medicinal benefit to it.
Right. I think the one question I hear a lot of people say, is CBD safe? Especially during the pandemic, a lot of people started hearing about it and everything, but then the question always was, well, it's just like, it's weed, ain't it? It's marijuana. Some older people, even younger people that have questions. Right. So how is it safe, and how safe is it?
It's very safe. Like I said, in the United States, hemp has to have less than 0.3% THC. So that amount will not get you high. It's non-addictive. When you think about why people use it, it's much safer than narcotic pain medications that people use. It's much safer than the Xanax and the benzodiazepines that people use for anxiety. So there really aren't any side effects from CBD. Some people will say, hey, when I take a strong one, I get too sleepy,
right,
or I'm too chill. But besides that, there really isn't any side effects on it. You can't overdose on CBD. So I tell people, don't be concerned. This is a lot safer than some of the other things that people take on a regular basis.
So if I was a new patient coming into your pharmacy and I don't know anything about anything, but I know that I have anxiety / depression or whatever mental health conditions that the psychiatrist has said that I have, and they put you on those certain medications, say like Prozac, Zoloft, all the stuff. Is there a CBD equivalent that a person could take and say, well, you know what, since I have this now, I don't want to take that pill anymore, or I feel I don't have to take that pill anymore because this helped what I was going through?
So you want to make sure you get a good quality CBD product first.
Not at gas station.
Right. Don't get it at the gas station and things like that. And just because it has a marijuana leaf on it doesn't mean it's a good product. But so you want to make sure you get a good product. Pretty much all hemp and CBD is about the same. Now you're talking about the dose that you're using. And so, we'll talk to people about what dose they should be using. As far as getting off of psychotropic medications, I tell people you always want to keep your pharmacist and your doctor in the loop. You don't want to just stop taking those things because they can really cause some withdrawal type of symptoms.
Right.
So what I would say is, hey, if you want to try to not use these things, let's work on a plan. Let's say you take them both every day for about 2 weeks. Then you start taking your Prozac 5 days a week for 2 weeks. And then the next week you go down from 5 days to 4 days.
Right.
So you really start weaning yourself out for those things and see how you feel. It's important to remember that, mental health is real and depression is real. And
Say that again.
you don't want a person stopping it and they, go do some other, they harm themselves or something like that.
Yep.
So, I'm always making sure I tell people, hey, we do get people off of those type of medications.
Yeah.
But, just don't stop them cold turkey.
And see, that's what I'm confused about. So explain that process as far as how you step in to become the advocate or speak on it, because the process is how I understand it is you go to the doctor, they write you the script, send it to the pharmacist just give it to you, So how do you come in and step in and say, well, is that when you become more proactive and say, maybe you should try something?
If a person's on the fence about it, they'll say things like, "Hey, is it safe? I mean, do you really think I need it? Is there anything else I can try?"
Right.
And then that's when we'll come in and we'll kind of start talking about some things.
Gotcha.
Also, just kind of being trained on, what am I dealing with here? Are we dealing with a person who may have just lost a loved one? It's like, I'm feeling kind of down, or are you dealing with a person who's like, I've been thinking about killing myself. That person probably really needs to be on medication.
Right.
And so if it's that type of person, or even when they're saying they're trying to stop, why did the doctor put you on it in the first place? And then as we go through there and then they say, hey, well, I really want to stop it. Then we say, all right, this is how you need to talk to your doctor about weaning yourself off. And, we can go that way as well.
So is there any type of health condition that's out there where you see that CBD is harmful to a person?
No, I mean, like every receptor in our human body, has receptors for CBD or cannabidiol. So, like I said before, you can't overdose on it. It doesn't have any drug interactions. Now, you might not need as much stuff for it. Like I said, it does help with seizures, right? So, if you start taking the CBD, you may not need as much seizure medication. And so, you need to work with the doctor because they might need to adjust your medications, But that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
Right.
You don't need as much medication. So yeah, I'm not concerned about any narcotic pain medications, they can cause respiratory depression, which is how people OD. They stop breathing. CBD doesn't cause respiratory depression. It works on pain in a totally different way. Right. And so, once again, even for a person that's, concerned about, hey, can I take this with my pain medications? You can, because it works in two different ways and you don't have to worry about overdosing. Yeah. So I can't think of any condition that I would say you don't need to take CBD.
Right. It was just a question. It popped in my head last night. I was like, I wonder if there is any harm at all, if any, because I was just wondering. I didn't think it was, some of the research I've done on it myself, but I just wanted to hear from the actual professional medical person.
What I'm curious is, for the working people that may be listening, what is considered for showing up on a test?
So, you remember I said it has less than 0.3% THC? That still will show up on a marijuana drug test. So there's a couple of things that
but low.
Yeah. So there's thresholds too, though. So it all depends on what your job says you can have. Now, there's a couple of ways to get around it. They do have some THC-free CBD, which doesn't have any THC at all. And so that you should do just fine. THC and CBD are so close, depending on how sensitive that drug test is, it may show up. But then if they did a blood test, it would show that it's CBD and not THC. Right. That's the first thing you can do. You can do a THC-free product. The second thing you can do is, if you have a physician, you can have the doctor write for it. Even though it's over the counter, you still just, hey, can you write a prescription for me for this? Because then if you turn up positive, you can say, hey, I got a prescription to take this medication, and this is why I'm showing up positive for THC, and you would be completely fine, and there's nothing that your job could do to you.
So if you're seeing your psychiatrist, and your psychiatrist is still keeping you on the same type of what were the medicines you call them when they
psychotropic medication,
right? And I say to my psychiatrist or my therapist, hey, I want to try CBD for the first time. Will they then say, okay, I'll write a script for you, and then you go from there, or more of them kind of hesitant?
Most practitioners probably wouldn't write the script because they'll just be like, it's over the counter. But if you tell them, like, hey, the reason why I would like to get a prescription is because they might drug test me at my job, and I want to make sure that then they shouldn't have any problems, writing that prescription for you.
Right. I knew. See, I was thinking about you last night because you like, man, I can't take none of that stuff because now where I work, I'm not taking that point. What? I don't want no point. Nothing.
Hey, somebody gave me some cream one time. I was like,
I mean, no, it's
like I wanted to because I was having some issues with sciatic, and then somebody, and I like holistic things. I drink a lot of tea. I prefer to go natural than to do anything else. Try to, but. And then somebody gave me some cream, and I was like,
right.
I don't know.
That cream is worse, I believe.
Maybe
so for you might want to call your doctor and say, hey, can you maybe write this, for me? So, if I get any issues with the drug testing and stuff.
Yeah. So speaking of background and experience, I understand that you got a background in HIV and AIDS research and extensive work that you've probably been doing since then, but that is also a conversation that has kind of died down over the years. Maybe in certain communities it's still talked about, but that's just not something you hear about anymore. You're hearing about more of other autoimmune deficiencies like MS and what's another one? Lupus. That's on the rise or whatever. So are we still dealing with HIV/AIDS? Like, how prevalent is it?
We definitely are still dealing with it. It's no longer a death sentence.
Okay, what I mean, so be specific. Dealing with it as in, have we found a cure? Is it a full, is something to keep you alive a little bit longer? Is it dealt with where, okay, we can move on to other stuff?
So, like I said, it used to be 20, 30 years ago, you get HIV, it was kind of like a death sentence, right? And that's where the stigma came. But over the past 30 years, they actually did some research. A person diagnosed with diabetes and a person diagnosed with HIV have the same life expectancy now. Which says we come a long way with HIV, but not that far with diabetes. And so because we have such good medications,
the cocktail,
if you can get, in cocktails, there used to be 5 or 6 different pills, and now they got one pill that you can take. We know now that if you're undetectable, meaning that we can't find the HIV virus in your blood, you still have HIV. It's just the virus is so low we can't detect it. You cannot transmit it to anybody else. So
I guess that's how Magic then transmitted the cookie.
Right. And so. When you think about that in some type of way, you can almost call that a cure because, I can't give it to anybody else and I'm going to live just as long as anybody else who didn't have it.
It's because the T cells get so low, right?
When the T cells get so low, that's when you start getting infections and that's how they die. But if you take your medication and you're undetectable, your T cells are going to stay high, your viral load is going to be low, and now they are now saying that undetectable equals untransmissible. So it's real, so... Now, because it's a chronic disease, the reason why you don't hear about it anymore as much is because people aren't as scared to get it like they were.
And they're able to manage it.
Right. I'm scared.
And so, I still tell everybody, you need to be just as vigilant because who wants to have that? Yeah. But you do have, it's not the stigma that it used to be years ago.
Yeah, I see tons and tons of commercials now. And but it seems like now they found some type of, I guess, cure that will, not a cure, but a preventative measure that will last you a little bit longer. But if you read the end and then they start naming the side effects, it's like the side effects is what's going to kill you, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing about it. That's why I tell people you still don't want to get HIV because you will have to take this medication. These medications do have side effects.
Yeah, because it says taking this medication, you may experience a stroke, heart attack, or if you're
But that's what I hear all the time. Like you see all those commercials late night, especially when I'm watching YouTube. The Victari, I think that's the HIV one. Valtrex for herpes. You see that, and it's always remember. Make sure you stay in contact with your physician while you're going through this whole time because this could possibly happen. Heart this and that. And I'm like, man, why?
Yeah. And also, for anybody listening, there's a real reason why if you have HIV, you need to take your medication. Like I said, they have numerous studies where one person has HIV and the other person doesn't, and they are married, nobody transmits it. But if you stop taking your medication and your viral load goes up, and it could be just 6 or 7 weeks after your viral load is high, you then have a high likelihood of transmitting it to somebody else. So, make sure people take their medication, make sure they keep their appointments, because if you're undetectable, it's untransmissible. That's the big thing.
So now with the HIV and AIDS work that you're doing, you do compounding, and is it hormone replacement with that as well?
Yeah, so we don't do a lot of compounding for HIV because their medications are very, very specific. But we do a lot with hormone replacement therapy. You know, as men and women age, their hormones begin to drop. Women's hormones kind of fall off a cliff like menopause, whereas men it's kind of like a slow decline, which is called andropause. So as we getting older, hot flashes, night sweats, mood swings, irritability, vaginal dryness.
Mine's just getting, for me, it's just getting big. You know, mine just stopped.
Right.
So,
dude, you've been like, I ain't gonna say that.
all right. So, moving right along. So, I also understand that you have a background in nutrition, evidence-based nutrition therapy. So, once again, as far as on our show, that's one thing that we like to talk about as far as along with health and wellness. We had Kaja Patel. Shout out to Kaja. Great guest. She's a licensed certified nutrition, and a whole bunch of other acronyms, certifications
a lot of stuff
on her name. So, but what we talked about with her, and would like to have that conversation with you, is just nutrition in Black and brown communities. How should we be looking at nutrition as far as when it comes to diets and medication? Because you got so many medications. It's like you want to do this, but then you might be on medication. Medication makes you gain weight. Sometimes it makes you lose weight. So what are some of the bigger factors when we're talking about nutrition, specifically in Black and brown communities?
90% of diseases are lifestyle based. Diet and exercise, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, arthritis, you name it. Losing weight and eating better probably would dramatically improve your health. Having said that, a lot of people don't eat well for a lot of different reasons. In our communities, we do have a lot of food deserts, where people have to drive, 6, 7, 8 miles to get to a grocery store that has fresh fruits and vegetables.
Right.
The other thing is, do we know what's considered fresh foods and vegetables?
People need to be educated on
right.
that
So we
first.
need to be, we need to be educated on that. And so if we can think about ways to have podcasts like this, do things at churches. I've been having some ideas I wanted to do. You rent out this thing and show people how to cook. Like people think you got to put fat back and you got to put all the salt. But like, no, there's a natural herbs and spices that you can use to give the food flavor, and you won't have to worry about the risk of high blood pressure. A lot of people don't realize that starches really run up your blood sugar. So you can switch from white meat to white bread to whole wheat bread, and those are different things like that. The next thing comes with like vitamins and minerals. The other reason, so you have some people who are like dietitians and really talk to you about, hey, you should only have this many calories and it should be this % fat, carbohydrates, and things like that. But we know most people eat the same 4 or 5 things all the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
So because you don't have the variety, you're not going to get the variety of your vitamins and minerals. And so for that reason, that's why I do suggest supplements to kind of balance things out. Fish oil is probably another number one supplement. And then you kind of look at other things like that. But everybody needs to.
Let me ask you a question right quick while you're talking about that. So the fish oil pills, and I used to work with a guy who used to take the garlic pills and everything like that. But they're so huge. Yeah. Now, you were talking about earlier, there's a way for you to make stuff for your younger patients. What about grown adults who have what they call smaller esophageal, that hole?
The problem is some things are big. So fish oil, they do make liquid fish oil. So that'd be the thing right there. You can do like a liquid fish oil. Nordic Naturals makes a good one that's flavored in a tutti frutti. So you can do that. Same thing with, you can get a liquid multiple vitamin. They have calcium that comes in liquid. So a lot of things do already come in liquids that you just might have to search for it a little bit. But a lot of those things do come in liquids.
Do y'all carry the liquid stuff as well? Okay.
Yeah, we carry it. Like I said, and if we don't have it, we can research on where to get it, and we can get it in for you. A lot of times, our supplements that we have are only for professional healthcare professionals, so you can just go and buy it yourself. But we can research it, order it for you, and get it for you.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing on as far as like, what do you feel about turmeric? So I do like the turmeric gummies and the.
You got the gummies now?
Yeah. And, well, it's the same brand that makes those heart chews that I take.
Right.
Those, beets, super beets. Not a plug.
Turmeric is great. If it's working for you, that's awesome. Turmeric does have to be manufactured correctly. So sometimes when people get a less expensive turmeric and they say, "Oh, I tried turmeric, it didn't work," it's probably not manufactured correctly. But if you're looking for another natural way to reduce inflammation, there's also been some studies on it to help out with memory and things like that. Good quality good quality turmeric is a great place to start.
So is that what was going on during the pandemic where everybody started learning the new breakfast cocktail, I guess you would say, the CBD with the apple cider vinegar and
I was doing orange juice or pineapple
with the ginger, turmeric.
I was mixing all that. Yeah.
Are people still doing that, or was that just like a pandemic thing because everybody was seeing everybody else doing the same thing? It was like an uptick.
That for me, that shot has been around before the pandemic. I was doing that when I was going to the gym. It gives you a boost, because and then also that ginger and that turmeric, especially if you're doing.
No,
fresh.
I'm talking about just the cocktail.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That breakfast.
That cocktail.
Okay.
I remember Ginger had a health bar, and that was part of one of her little health shots, and all the gym people come in there and get the shot or whatnot.
Okay.
It's supposed to like burn belly fat or whatever and boost energy. But yeah, that had actually kind of been around before the pandemic. But I think when the pandemic came,
that's what I was saying. It was like an uptick.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got people just sitting at home trying to come up with different things to do.
Trying to survive.
All of those ingredients also are very natural ways to detoxify your body, help your liver start working better. So, people are probably just out and about and don't have time to mix all those things together. So that might be why you don't see it as much anymore. But like he said, it had been around for a while, and it's just all about, like reducing your appetite, fat burning, and things like that.
So was it an uptick? Did you notice an uptick like in the sale of CBD during that time?
Yeah, we did. Just because, we were telling people about it, like, hey, this really can help with this. And so as we educated more people about it, people then were starting to come back in and get it. And Georgia really approved it probably about a year before the pandemic. So that's when people really started, coming in.
That makes sense.
Speaking of COVID, when are we going to be done with it? Because we got the vaccine. They keep coming out with different variants, but do those vaccines effectively work for these new trending variants that keep popping up? Right. So do those vaccines work for the new variants? So
currently the new one that we have out is a bivalent variant, and it is very effective against Omicron. And one of the things that I got to keep reminding people is it does make it harder to get COVID, but the real thing that the vaccines are supposed to do is prevent you from ending up in the hospital and dying. Right. So you may still get COVID, but you won't end up in the hospital and die. I predict it's probably going to be like the flu. Every year they come up with a different flu vaccine based on the flu virus that we have circulating in the world. So they're probably going to be doing that every two or three times a year. They're going to come out, okay, this is the variants we have now. Let's tweak this vaccine a little bit. And that'll go there. But I think it's here to stay.
Yeah. Now, what about the strain? I don't know if you probably know too much about it, but the new strain that's going on in China, because they're basically shutting it down again.
Right.
Is that going to make its way over here? People in the medical profession, have y'all been having little chats, over here in the corner here and there about what's happening over there?
It's so hard to know what China is doing because they were not transparent at all when it first started. And so of course we're in a global society. It's gonna come over here. If they got it over there, it's gonna come over here. I don't even know how effective China, because they didn't use the same vaccines that we use, so we don't even really know exactly how effective their vaccines are. So that might be why they're having something going on right now. But you got a lot of smart people working on it around the clock. But I think it is going to be something that twice a year, if you decide to, they're probably going to say, hey, you need to get a booster for this vaccine. Now, the other thing that you have as we get more treatment for it, there's a drug called Paxlovid. If you get COVID, you can go to the pharmacy and get that medication. So as we get more and more medications for it, then just like the flu, they have a drug called Tamiflu. Some people don't get the flu shot, but if they get the flu, hey, I'll just go get some Tamiflu right quick.
I saw some people were recommended to take that if they had COVID. Not the first part of it.
Right.
More or less around Omicron.
Mm-hmm. Right. So what I was saying is when you think about, will it always be with us? If we have good therapies and, people aren't dying from it, kind of like what we were talking about with HIV, like, okay, well, you got COVID, you go take this pill, you're not going to end up in the hospital, you're not going to die.
Right.
That'll be kind of how we give it, but it's always going to be out there, I believe.
But it's going to be manageable,
right?
Basically. Mm-hmm. Okay, because I kind of had that question too. Was it going to come back? Because sometimes you hear people say, "Oh, it's back."
Right.
This one's going to be even worse than the first one.
They always say that. This one's going to be worse than the first one. I'm like.
Well, and if you think about it, like when Delta came, that was bad.
That was
And by the time Omicron came around, you had so many people that were already vaccinated, so you didn't see the death and that's what this whole thing was about. It's just we had never seen a virus that could kill so quickly,
taking people out.
We had never seen a virus that one person could get it and not even know that they got it, and another person get it in 2 weeks be dead.
Yeah,
so that was the thing.
It seemed like when they say, though, that, this next one's going to be real bad, I just think that what I've seen is it spread it faster.
Yeah.
And it was, like, more potent, So, because I remember hearing people about it every week. Even now, I've heard, every week I hear about somebody getting COVID. So, and luckily, knock on wood, if I can find some, I haven't had it, and I've never had the flu. So, I just try to stick to my same regimens that I was maybe doing before COVID, but I kind of intensified it during COVID, which was I drink my tea like twice a day, herbal, tea, green tea, elderberry tea, mix it with some ginger and turmeric. Take my gummies, my vitamin D3. Yeah. I try not to overload because my friends used to pick on me like, man, you gonna OD on vitamins, but also, that's when I really, during the pandemic, that's when I really got into like sea moss, and I always try to do my research and make sure I was getting good, authentic, non-swimming pool grown sea moss or whatever. People are like developing sea moss in a swimming pool. And so,
really?
Yeah. But because it's typically supposed to come from the islands.
But somebody trying to make a buck, just
man, it's always somebody hustling. You gotta read labels these days. You gotta watch out for stuff.
I don't mess with it.
So one of the things that when I say evidence based, and not to say anything's wrong with sea moss, but a lot of times it'll be like small study sample size, like they might have just looked at 12 people, whereas, so when I recommend fish oil, I can tell you, there's like thousands of articles showing that fish oil reduce blood pressure, reduce cholesterol, reduce the risk of heart attacks and strokes, vitamin D, multiple articles about how it boosts the immune system. And so when we recommend those things, I always try to recommend those things that have an abundance of research behind it. And especially in humans. A lot of times, they'll say something like, hey, this is good for this. And then when you actually read the study, it was done in rats.
Right.
Yeah.
And so a lot of things that we recommend is always has that evidence-based, research behind it.
And I give you that because I got to be honest. I can't tell you what sea moss has done for me. Because, some people are like, oh, yeah, I took sea moss, been taking it for like 3 months, and I just feel so great, whatever. It didn't really do anything for me. I haven't lost no weight. Didn't make me lose weight. Didn't suppress my appetite or anything. But I do contribute to that as far as whatever I was doing during COVID, and I haven't got it. I'm just gonna keep doing it,
right?
I'm just gonna keep taking it.
So I had COVID twice. My wife, both times. We sleeping in the bed together, and she never got it.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, so there's also something that they say is people with a specific blood type also have.
I was about to say that's what I was asking my mom. I called my mom one day because I read it was like the O positive or something.
They don't get
right, yeah.
And apparently that's what I am.
Yeah, that's that old blood.
You said the old
blood. That's the old people say. That's the older people. That's that old blood.
Yeah. So maybe maybe that's it. I don't know. I've heard about that. I remember the first guy who they found out had like this special blood, and that's what he was.
Right.
And then everybody kept trying to come and synthesize his blood or whatnot. I don't know if that's a proper word, but they kept trying to test his blood or whatever. Like, I hope the brother getting paid for it. Using him as a science experiment. But so another big thing that we, as far as moving on to our health and wellness, and I've got somebody coming on who is in that actually particular field, but I also understand you have a little bit of experience when we're talking about black skincare. When it comes to black skincare, there's so many products out there, but there's not a lot of products designed for us.
Right.
From what I see, as far as when you're looking at the general grocery store or markets or online places or whatnot. You do have a lot of Black-owned companies that are pushing products, but then they always say you should be careful about everything because you got to read the back of that label and anything that's got those zines or zines or whatever, So I was listening to one chick and she, was podcast and whatnot, and she was a doctor or whatnot for, skincare. And she basically said for like African Americans, best thing for us to do is just wash your face with water. When you're in the shower, wash your face. Maybe use some soap and water, but also it depends on what kind of soap, know. So as far as your experience and where you're at knowledgeable with Black skincare, where are you at with that?
So we do we compound for a lot of actual diseases. So we really don't get into like, hey, what you should wash your face with. Different people have different types of skin. Some people have very oily skin, so they would need something that's a little bit dry now. Some people have very dry skin. They would need
so like eczema, that's where you're focusing on.
Yeah. So we have things with, so for instance, if some of these eczema creams can cause your skin to become real thin. And so, you might not want to use that all the time. So we can compound a topical vitamin B12 because that really helps out with eczema. Same thing with psoriasis. We had a patient where the medication that the doctor prescribed was going to cost him $800. Well, we were able to compound something that was $65 and it cleared it up. He did a real good job.
Wow.
A lot of things that we do is for hyperpigmentation, which is a long word for dark spots. So, sometimes people get these dark spots underneath their cheeks, foreheads, and things like that. And so we combine 3 different ingredients into one cream that really works well with that. So if you're a person and it's all over the place. Some people have dark elbows. They want to lighten up. So we can really help out with that.
So y'all actually have just a cream for that now?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I've been trying to get rid of my dark knees for so long because, you remember, I used to crawl around everywhere because I couldn't, and my knees for the rest of my life have been darkened from all of that. And I never knew there was just, hey, here's a cream.
Yep, that's a cream. We can work with your doctor to get it in for you.
Those dark spots, like, you ever seen those people who have that like dark line going across their nose?
Or them dark ring around their neck.
Yeah, and then around their eyes. So that's what you're focusing on right there. And they have something for that.
Yeah, we got something for that. And then scars. We have some things that can really reduce the appearance of scars. It doesn't matter if it's an acne scar, if it's a new scar. It was actually pretty amazing. This lady, she had 2 C-sections. And so she ended up going to another doctor for her 3rd child. And so they were about to do the C-section again. And she said, the doctor was like, in your chart says you had a C-section. And the lady was like, yeah, why? He was like, where's the scar? And, after each of her C-sections, she comes to us and gets this scar cream to help prevent her from getting the scar from the C-section.
It cleared up the C-section scar?
That's dope.
And the doctor was like, I don't even see it. So,
Now, let me ask you real quick, though. Go back to CBD. Don't they have CBD creams that kind of can do the same thing?
Not for healing a scar, but very much for topical pain. So if you're a person who doesn't like to take pills, you can rub it right there on that elbow. Right. And, you're good to go. Rub it on your knee and you're good to go.
Right. Now, what if you got sciatica pain, though? With those creams, would they go deep in enough to help with that?
And that's where, you just got to make sure you get a good product, and you got to make sure that, the person that's recommended, you trust them. Because we have some real good products that do well. For sciatica, it is pretty difficult, so that's when we would compound something, because we can compound, and we have some special gels that really drive things deep. Okay. So that's when we get, we can take different oral medications, like gabapentin or, ibuprofen, and put that into a cream, and you can rub it right there, and that really helps.
I need some of that.
Yeah. Ibuprofen, that when I was dealing with it, when I started stretching and going back to the gym, and the ibuprofen would be a temporary fix. Went to a chiropractor. That kind of helped as well, but it was more of a nerve thing. So I think it's just, start doing these certain stretches that I was doing research.
But see, my problem is I can't take ibuprofen because of my blood condition, because I got G6PD.
Okay.
And you can't have ibuprofen because it'll have your heart, and I didn't know for the longest because I used to take a leave. Okay. Because that would be the only thing that would help me. And so I went to the doctor one day. I was like, man, I was like, doc, he's like, what are you doing strenuous? I said, nothing. I just deliver parts and whatever, ride around the whole state pretty much. And that's what I do. And then he checked me. He said, "Hold on, says you have G6PD." I said, "Yeah." He's like, "You can't be taking ibuprofen."
Okay.
He said that's what's causing your heart palpitations. And ever since I stopped, I haven't had them.
Okay.
Since then. And I'm glad that I found that out, because he said you could have kept taking this and over a prolonged time.
Right.
I would have damaged my own heart and everything like that, because what I was putting in my body, I didn't know it was that serious. So, say for a person like me with that condition, are there certain different medications that you would say, all right, Steve, this may work for such and such, but for you, we recommend you use this product?
So, for instance, if you can't use ibuprofen or Aleve or any of those things, Tylenol is a very good effect.
Right, but acetaminophen never really
didn't really work for it.
Yeah, just.
So then you might need to look at like some of the topical creams, like you said, topical CBD. You could get with us where we could compound something like lidocaine, something to dead that area. Depending on how bad the pain is, you could use something like ketamine topically. Some doctors want to stay away from that, but it does work very, very well. So it's a lot of different things that we could come up with that doesn't have that ibuprofen in there.
Right. Okay. That's I needed to know that, because sometimes you learn more and more stuff the older you get. It's like and that's one good thing though. Learn something new every day.
It's good to go to the doctor. A lot of times,
it's good to go to the doctor. Some people be like, "Oh man, my heart's just." You might need to go get that checked out there, buddy.
Get that checked.
Yeah. So, but going back to what we talked about yesterday, was that the day before yesterday?
It was yesterday.
Yeah. Going to the doctor, but also being an advocate for yourself when you go to the doctor. Make sure you have a doctor that you can actually talk to and that will actually talk to you and listen to the conditions and the problems that you're trying to explain to them. That was my backstory on discovering like that I had anxiety, because I didn't know what it was. Thought I was having a heart attack. Right. I've told the story 1,000 times, but I felt that my longtime doctor, which was like, I felt like they were family because I had been with them so long, and he's a good guy. But I just didn't feel like he was taking what I was saying in the best interest, not maliciously, but he's busy.
Right.
So, 8-9 minutes tops.
Right.
Going to the next door. Versus I needed somebody to sit down there and listen to me, because, hey, I feel like something's going on with me. Right. And everybody keeps saying my numbers are great, nothing's wrong. But I'm like, nah, something's wrong. So in order to do that, I had to actually switch up my doctor, and then find somebody who was willing to advocate for me and advocate for myself, so listen to what I had to say and actually sit down instead of, because I feel like if you have a doctor, they're holding their pad and they're standing up, like, look, right. I don't feel like you're really invested in my health concerns, right.
And, with all of that, and also that's why, sometimes it helps to talk to another healthcare professional, because sometimes people don't know how to say what they're trying to say. Right. And then also how to be concise with what you're trying to say. Like I said, doctors are very busy. They got to see so many patients. So if you start going in there, going around your elbow to get to your fist, versus, you say, hey, doc, this is what's going on. I know you said this is fine, but I'm still feeling like this. Right. And so, but yeah, it also is getting the right doctor though, because, doctors are like any other professions. Some are good, some are not so good. Some have better bedside manners than others. Right. That's what you were kind of getting, some good bedside manners, and somebody who's like, okay, let's try to figure this out. Let's see what the root cause of this is.
Okay.
All right. I think you're somewhat kind of like me. What? I grew up feeling like the doctor should be like, it's my friend. Yeah. I'm going to take time with you.
Like, I should be able to call him anytime on the hip and be like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah. Tell me now.
Yeah, but they say statistically, doctors really only have about 7 to 8 minutes for you, and they got to go.
Right, they got to go.
And so
that's their profession.
We're wrapping it up and getting close to the end of the podcast. So what I would like to know is future, moving forward, what do we plan to see as far as growth, education out of Scout's Pharmacy, and also saw something else. Is it one and the same, One Wellness?
So One Wellness was our nutritional supplement line. We've kind of gone away from that now, and just kind of operate off of scottspharmacy1.com, where you can get all your supplements there. We have online wellness classes, natural products for migraines, natural products for thyroid disorders, natural products for diabetic nerve pain. So each one of these classes has about 10 different videos people can watch and get some more information about natural products like that. We're going to continue to educate about compounding. Like I said, anytime the standard medication doesn't work, we're doing some cool things with nasal irrigation now for people who have chronic sinusitis. If you're a person who's always using nasal sprays and you're still congested and stuff like that, we have some things that we can really help with that. So we're going to be doing some more seminars in the community on hormone replacement therapy, on CBD and things like that. So we're going to be trying to educate a lot of people. And so if you educate people, then people are going to want to come and shop with you. And that's how we plan on growing our business in 2023.
I can have a personal question. Right. What are some good natural probiotics to use?
So probiotics are your good bacteria. You literally have hundreds of thousands of bacteria that line our intestinal tract. A lot of people don't realize 70% of your immune system is in your intestines. So when that's out of whack, you can have issues everywhere.
Yes.
Autoimmune diseases oftentimes start in the gut.
Diverticulitis.
Yeah. But no, like lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, all this starts in the gut. There's a gut-brain connection. So a lot of times if you clean up somebody's gut, their depression will improve. But probiotics aren't measured in milligrams like aspirin is. It's measured in actual live bacteria. So those probiotics that have a higher number, like in the billions, are going to be better than those that have a lower number.
Okay.
And also those probiotics that have different types of bacteria are going to be better than those that just have one type of bacteria. So when you flip that label over, it should say like 40 billion, 100 billion.
And I was wondering why they say different. I take probiotics, and of course, everything I take seems like it's a gummy. But you
take probiotic gummies?
Yeah,
I need to borrow one.
And so I take those, but I noticed that they have different, like this one, Nature's Own or whatever. Just different brands. They have different, billions, or this one has X amount, like 10 billion or whatnot.
Right.
So that's what that means.
Right, yeah. So the higher the better. And then the more different types of bacteria. So you probably looked on that label, it might say lactobacillus or bacteriobacterium or Saccharomyces. So the more different types of bacteria, those products are going to be a little bit better.
Gotcha.
And that's when you'll start seeing the price go up.
All right.
See, I was trying to, my ulcer been acting up again.
Stop drinking them ginger ales. Ginger ales is not a medicine.
I don't drink them like that, like I used to.
All right. So, we get to the end of the podcast. It's something that we like to do at the end of each podcast. We do this thing. I know. We do this thing called 5 words. So Jay Steve's gonna get you with 5 words, and then the first thing that comes to your brain when you hear that word, go ahead and drop it.
All right.
All right. 5 words with Dr. Bryan Scott. 1, pharmacy.
Let's see. Family owned.
Howard. Education.
A must.
Moody Road.
I remember when it was 2 lanes.
Golly, I forgot. And last, inspiration.
Go with my family.
All right, give it up for Dr. Bryan Scott. All right, so we're done with the podcast. We really appreciate you coming on and having this conversation with us, and we hope we can have you back. And before you leave, is there anything that you would like to plug, shout outs, whatever you like, the information that you would like to plug, let us know.
That was everything. I always like to ask people for their support. Scott's Pharmacy, we've been open since 1985. For as far as our compounded products, where we work with you and your physician to come up with something specifically for you, we ship all over the state. So anytime that standard medication isn't working, we can help. And then with our natural supplements, ScottsPharmacy1.com, you can go there and get high quality nutritional supplements, and they can be shipped right to your doorstep.
All right.
ScottsPharmacy1.com.
And that is 635 Pioneer Avenue, Macon, Georgia.
That's correct.
Also, you can contact them at 478-742-3098. And once again, that's Dr. Bryan Scott, Scott's Pharmacy. Check him out. So once again, appreciate y'all coming in and tuning in and checking out this great interview with Dr. Bryan Scott.
Yes, sir.
Once again, we're going to continue having these conversations on health and wellness and just, engaging with our black community, black and brown community, and having these conversations. What we learned about the other day in this of our conversation yesterday was that we got to have these conversations, whether it's about finance, our economic growth, our political empowerment, and just mainly our health, because as you know, the numbers are still against us. As we had my aunt come on and we talked about the high mortality rate in childbirth in black and brown women, and so that's still a high statistic, and so we've got her coming back on with a couple other doctors to continue having that conversation about the high mortality rate with childbirth, and ironically for some reason it's with black women. And as you know, we know 3 people personally that died giving childbirth,
and that's why we have to keep having these conversations.
Yeah. And so we want to keep having these conversations, like I'm gonna say over and over, reiterate. And so, but just check us out. We got some great podcasts coming on. We're going to continue our conversation on mental health, just talking about everything that's under that umbrella. We've got some people we're going to be talking about black marriage, or just marriage in general, marriage and relationships. So we've got a couple of people chiming in. I don't like to give away the guests. I like for it to be a surprise, but it's going to be a great conversation. And we're just going to keep going down this rabbit hole of just topics trying to inform the community. So I'm your host, BK.
And I'm your host, J. Steve.
Peace.
Thank you for checking out another episode of the Soul Fresh Podcast. If you want to catch the audio version, make sure you go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you want to check out the video version, make sure you head on over to YouTube. And when you get there, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and go ahead and turn on that notification bell. And in the meantime, until the next time, keep it 100, be blessed.